You move the couch to the other wall. Maybe you bring in a new chair. Maybe you simply slide your dog's bed 2 feet to the left, just 2 feet to make room for something else. It takes you 30 seconds, and then your dog walks in. They stop at the threshold. Not dramatically, not with a whine or a bark. They just pause, and they read the room the way you might read a map you've been handed upside down. They sniff where the old bed was. They circle the empty space in slow, deliberate loops, and then, in the moment that usually makes you laugh, they lie down, not on the brand new bed you placed 2 feet away, not on the soft replacement, but on the bare floor where the old one used to be. Exactly where it was, as if the furniture is still there and only they can see it. You watch this and you smile, because it's one of those things dogs do that seems almost too small to take seriously. But the question lives just under the laughter: why does it matter so much to them? Most people believe the answer is fairly simple. Dogs are adaptable animals, resilient, flexible, wired for survival. The common assumption is that a dog's preference for a particular spot is really just a preference for comfort. They like the soft surface, the warm patch, the familiar texture. And if you replace one soft thing with another soft thing, they'll figure it out. Maybe there's a brief adjustment period, a day or two of circling and mild confusion, and then they move on. This framing is reasonable. It's also kind. It treats the behavior as minor and temporary, something that resolved itself. But it almost entirely misses what is actually happening beneath the surface of that quiet, deliberate circling. Because here's what breaks that assumption. If your dog's preference were purely about comfort, they would migrate naturally to any equivalent surface. Soft is soft, warm is warm, but that isn't what they do. What the research actually documents is something far more specific. Studies on canine territorial behavior note that dogs don't just seek the object, they return, repeatedly, to the location of a removed object. Not to wherever the bed was moved, to the original location. And while they're circling that empty space, they display classic stress indicators: yawning, lip licking, low-grade restless movement. These aren't the behaviors of an animal mildly inconvenienced. They're the behavioral signature of an animal experiencing something closer to disorientation. The location, it turns out, holds meaning independent of the object sitting on it, and that distinction changes everything. To understand why, you have to start with the architecture of canine memory. Dogs possess a highly developed hippocampal spatial mapping system, the same neural infrastructure that allows them to navigate intricate landscapes, remember where a bone was buried months ago, and build a remarkably precise internal model of their environment. Research published in Behavioral Neuroscience has shown that dogs don't merely remember spaces, they encode them. Specific locations become neurologically registered as part of their personal territory, and disruption to those encoded locations produces a measurable stress response detectable in both cortisol levels and behavioral indicators. Spot your dog returns to isn't simply where they sleep. It is a mapped, claimed, and neurologically anchored point in the internal model they carry of their world. From inside your dog's experience, that spot is something more than furniture. It is a node of predictability in their daily psychological landscape, a place where the smell is right, where the light falls in a pattern they recognize, where they can observe the room from a vantage point they have come to trust. It is one of the fixed points that tells them, in the quiet language of the body and the nose and the nervous system, that everything is still okay. When it disappears, when you move it, replace it, remove it, you haven't just rearranged the furniture. You have removed one of the coordinates from their internal map of what is stable and safe. What looks like stubbornness from the outside is, from the inside, something much more like being lost in a place that used to be home. And this attachment runs deeper than memory. It runs through biology. Dogs deposit scent markers continuously and involuntarily through glands in their paws, their chin, their body. Every hour spent resting in a particular spot leaves behind a layered chemical signature, a record of presence, of claim, of belonging. Research on canine olfactory behavior from the University of Florida indicates that a dog's own scent in a space functions as a genuine chemical anchor, a signal of safety and familiarity that the dog can literally smell. When you replace their bed, even with something identical in texture and size, that new surface carries none of that chemical history. The old spot smelled like them, like safety, like mine. The new one is just fabric, and to a nervous system built around scent as primary information, that difference is enormous. This isn't a modern neurosis, it's ancestral. Wild canids, wolves, foxes, the populations that gave rise to the dog sleeping on your living room floor, maintained specific resting sites within their territory not by accident, but by intention. Those sites were selected for sight lines, for proximity to warmth, for access to the center of the social group. They were returned to, defended, and encoded across generations. The neurological drive to claim and hold a specific spatial position within the living environment isn't something dogs were taught. It is something they arrived in the world already carrying, a survival mechanism that once kept their ancestors alive, now expressed as a preference for a corner of your couch. And this doesn't stop at a single spot. Research on canine anxiety in shelter and rehoming contexts, including work by behavioral scientists studying chronic environmental stress in dogs, consistently shows that animals in frequently rearranged or relocated environments display measurably higher baseline anxiety than those in stable spatial settings. The spot is one expression of a larger need, the need for a world that behaves the way it behaved yesterday. Every time the furniture is where it was, every time the light falls where it fell, every time the smell is right and the room is legible, your dog receives a quiet, continuous confirmation that they are safe. Every unexplained change quietly subtracts from that account. Here's where it becomes more complicated and more revealing. Not all dogs experience spatial displacement with equal distress, and the factor that best predicts how strongly a dog reacts to a changed spot is not breed, not age, and not temperament in any fixed sense. It is the security of their attachment bond with their owner. Studies on canine resilience, including research from the Horwitz Dog Cognition Lab at Barnard College, showed that dogs with stable, responsive attachment figures recover from environmental disruptions significantly faster than dogs whose attachment histories have been anxious or inconsistent. The spot matters most to the dog who has the least certainty that everything else will stay constant. Spatial attachment in this light isn't really about the space at all. It is a symptom of a deeper need, the need for a predictable world, and the degree to which a dog clings to a location reflects the degree to which that location is doing work that a secure relationship could otherwise do. Which means that if you are rearranging your home, replacing your dog's bed, or moving to a new space entirely, the transition matters far more than most owners realize. Placing the new bed in the exact location of the old one, even temporarily, allows your dog's spatial map to update gradually rather than rupture all at once. Transferring your scent to the new bed by placing a worn piece of clothing inside it gives the new surface chemical familiarity before your dog is asked to accept it as theirs. These are small gestures, but to a nervous system organized around spatial predictability and scent anchoring, they are not small at all. They are the difference between a world that shifted and a world that still makes sense. So go back to that image. Your dog at the threshold, pausing, reading the altered room with that focused, slightly lost attention. What you're looking at now isn't a quirk. It isn't stubbornness or drama. It is a being whose sense of safety is built, in meaningful, measurable, neurological terms, from the reliability of the physical world around them. A world they have mapped with extraordinary care, encoded in scent and memory, oriented around fixed points that whisper, in a language older than words, that everything is still okay. When you move their spot, you move one of those fixed points. And what they do next, the circling, the returning, the lying down on bare floor where the bed used to be, is their way of searching for a world that still makes sense. The next time you watch them do it, you won't laugh the same way. You'll understand what they're looking for. If your dog has ever refused a new bed, circled the exact location of an old one, or reacted to a rearranged room in a way that seemed out of proportion to the change, share it in the comments. I want to know what you saw. And if you found this one worth your time, stay close. Because how your dog responds to changes in their physical space is revealing. But what happens inside them when the change isn't to the furniture but to you? That's something most owners never see coming.